Well, how's everyone doing today? I hope everyone's well. I hope everyone is hanging in there, fighting this terrible disease that we've all been suffering with. So tell me, how did you folks enjoy the debate last night? I found it to be quite interesting. Oh, let me give props. I believe her name is Christian Welker. I probably got it wrong. That young woman that was the debate moderator. Oh, she was talk about professional. Professional, the way that she presented herself. I mean, she was absolutely on the money. That young woman, quite frankly, as far as I'm concerned, she was the star of the show. I know that the moderator is not supposed to be the star, but in this particular case, under these particular circumstances, she turned out to be the star. And especially when you look at what happened in the last debate, which was, basically Donald Trump turned the debate into a barroom brawl. As a matter of fact, I've seen a few bar fights in my time, and I've seen a few that were a little more civil than what Trump managed to do in the first debate. And who was that? Mike Wallace's kid, Chris Wallace? It wasn't his fault. No one. I don't think Gandhi could have moderated that first debate. Because Donald was intent upon just smashing stuff up like a crazed bull, African bull elephant. And I appreciate whoever it was that slipped Donald his medications. Actually, I think they probably overdosed him somewhat, and I'm glad they did, because of that, they were able to calm Trump down to the point that we had an almost rational debate, and people were actually able to learn something. And I do believe that the American people were able to learn a hell of a lot about both candidates. Democrats, progressives, I think we learned that Joe Biden he's not perfect. We never said he was. And we also learned that Donald is a bigger monster than we thought he was. This business about trying to make something out of nothing. I'm referring, of course, to this BS about Biden having secret accounts and getting money from China. Look, just like Joe said, I have never taken foreign money. Period. End of story. And I like the way that Joe Biden turned the tables on him. He answered the question. No, I don't take foreign money. I have not taken any foreign money. Then he went on, Donald, why won't you show your tax returns? Because your tax return basically says it all. Especially for, supposedly, because Donald never gets tired, or he used to, never get tired of telling us all just how rich he is. So his tax return will basically tell us the whole story. How much he has, who does he owe money to, so on and so forth. And, like Joe said, well, hey man, how come you haven't shown us your tax return? What's the story? Now, listen, for all you working class folks out there like myself, who might be tempted to say, when you're sitting in the bar tonight, hey, what the hell is Biden talking about? Worrying about this guy's taxes. Who the hell cares about taxes? Well, let me ask you this. This guy's the president of the United States. He's the commander-in-chief. He's the head of what used to be called the free world. He has a tremendous amount of influence on how much taxes you pay. He always claims he's this great billionaire businessman. Do you think it's fair? Do you think it's right that he's only paid $750 in the last 10 years in taxes? Are you okay with that? Do you think that's right? See, that's what I'm talking about. You see, there are certain times and people in certain positions that you can't give a pass to. This is not a game show, folks. Being president of the United States is not a damn game show. And that is one of the tragedies that has taken place in this country over the last 4 years. This is the real deal here. This business about owing over $400 million to some nebulous people or countries overseas. Who? Who are these people? What countries? How did this come about? And there again, Trump, he ain't talking. He ain't saying. And I can hear those voices in the bar. Oh, what the hell? Who the hell? What do I care if he owes money? I owe money. Listen, Joey, listen. The guy's the president of the United States. You can't have your president owe $400 million. And now we see that the amount is way more than 400 mil. And you don't know who he owes it to or why. For what? Was it for business expansion? I mean, come on here. And check this out. It's due by the end, I think it's due by the end of next year or within the next 2 years. What happens if it's not paid? What's the interest payments? See, this is what we as a nation need to understand. What favors will be given? Well, we moved the 7th Fleet, okay? Well, listen, Donald, if you don't have that 400 million, let's move the 7th Fleet from Hawaii. Move it to San Francisco. Hey, why not? That's where it used to be, okay? It used to be there. The 7th Fleet, the headquarters were in San Francisco up until 1940. So the point that we're making here is that it becomes a question of national security. How much money a president owes and who he owes that money to. And Donald refuses to say. That's what makes it such a big deal. Now, again, the business about this COVID thing. One of the things that really freaks me out, this president, and he will say vanilla on Tuesday and strawberry on Thursday. he told us, I saw this guy stand in front of the microphone. COVID is just a hoax made up by the Democrats. By the Democrats and by the liberal media to scare people away from supporting my administration. Now, I saw him when he said that. It's on the record. It's on the, you can look this up on YouTube. It's on, it's in the Library of Congress. It's there. It exists. That's what he said. But then he has a meeting with the one half of the Woodward and Bernstein crew. I mean, this is half of the crew that brought down Richard Nixon. And what does he say? He says, yeah, they told me about this, this COVID thing. And it scared the hell out of me. It's, oh my God, this is a disaster. It's a disaster because it's in the air. And it attacks everybody. Babies, old people, young people. It attacks everyone. So he knew this. He knew that this thing was a disaster. But he comes out in public and tells, tells the American people, oh, this is no big deal. No big deal at all. They're just, the media is just trying to fan the flames. It's just trying to get people upset. The newspapers, they're losing, they're falling down, they're losing sales. And the Democrats are just looking for an issue. Oh, the mask, you don't need the mask. When this thing really started getting serious, or especially in terms of people in hospitals, Fauci was talking about not wasting masks because we were in such short supply. The people who had to work with people who were already infected didn't have masks. So he didn't want people on the outside to just, hey, I'm getting the mask. I think it's cool. I'm going to play with it, He didn't want to see that happen. So at first, we didn't want to see people just hammer them, scare them, playing with the mask and waste them. And then, as we learn more about this disease, no, everybody's going to need to get the damn mask. And that's all that was. Trump goes out there and says, hey, the masks are not necessary. I'm not going to wear a mask. And what happens eventually? He gets sick. His kid gets sick. His wife gets sick. His wife is still sick. And I believe his son is still sick. And he's holding these spreader rallies. Look, I don't give a damn if you support Trump or not. And that's something else that freaks me out. They're your supporters, Donald. Now, you know that it's not safe to jam people up in these rallies, to jam them up close together. Your supporters. Yet you continue to do this time after time. The doctors in the hospitals, in the places that you go to, they tell us the worst time is a week after you have come through holding one of your damn rallies. Because the cases of COVID skyrocket, Hell, all you have to do is read the damn paper, and you see all the people who have contracted this terrible disease. But my God, you keep doing it anyway. Listen, Donald, we realize how important this election is to you. But what you are doing now, it crosses the boundary of sanity. You know, I want to tell you something. No matter what happens, sooner, if you don't win re-election, but maybe a year or two down the road, there is going to be some type of commission, maybe an academic commission, but a commission of some sort. Because we have to find out what the hell happened to the American people. We're going to have to find out what happened to a large segment of the American people. And that's one question that wasn't raised last night under debate, which I wish had been brought up. How is it that a large segment of the American people supported a guy that approved of putting babies in cages? And yes, I said babies, because when you're talking about tearing a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old out of the arms of their parents, when you're taking a 4-year-old child and snatching this kid out of the arms of his mom, we're talking babies here, okay? 3 years old, 4 years old, hell, even 5 years old, that's a damn baby. You are taking a 5-year-old child and putting that kid in a cage. This is what America, that is the symbol of what we have become throughout the world. That is the symbol. I remember when our symbol was the GI, right? Marching along, he's got his rifle slung over his shoulder. And he's got his canteen on his web belt, right? And, you know, the kid, hey, GI, chocolate bar, chocolate bar. And we're throwing the, you know, chocolate bars to the kids and whatnot. Even doing now. You know, I know you're thinking, I'm thinking about World War II, and I am. But we did the same thing in Korea, and we did the same thing in Vietnam. And we even try to do the same thing in the Middle East. I know I fed kids candy in the Middle East when we could. Because that's part of the American psyche. That's, you know, that's one of the things that the world loved about us. They didn't, you know, they never saw us as being perfect. But they knew there were certain things that we stood for. And putting children in cages, the idea of Americans doing that, it is, you know, so shocking, so horrifying to the world at large. Hell, back in the 70s, even, my God, it's almost impossible, especially being a military person, it's almost impossible for me to get the words out. Hell, even Khrushchev and Stalin would give America credit for that, for being the guys that kids all over the world looked up to. And now with this guy Trump, we're known as the people that put babies in cages. We're known now the champions of free speech. We're known as having a president that has. I'm so glad to know that the military really didn't want any part of it, but trying to use the military to clear out peaceful demonstrators in a public park so that he could march through like he's Moses or some damn buddy and stand there with a Bible upside down. And to this very day, I'm still trying to figure out what the hell was that supposed to signify. These are the images that we now present to the world. This is the president that says that a man, and I don't give a damn how you feel about the war in Vietnam, whether you supported the war or you were against the war. And remember, the average guy in them, they didn't necessarily support the war, but they supported the way that military people, we did the job that our government asked us to do. And this president said that one of those warriors that was doing the job that the government asked him to do was shot down in the conduct of carrying out his lawful orders, got his legs broken, and then when he was put into a prisoner of war camp, told his captors, told the North Vietnamese, who wanted to send him home early, and he told them no. Because there are guys who have been here way longer than I have. So I stay here until my turn comes up. Can you imagine the heroism that took? I've just been shot down. I got injured when I bailed out. I was beaten, right? His shoulders were broken. As a matter of fact, he went through he was never able to button his own damn shirt. A United States senator who could not button his own damn shirt because of the damage that was done to his body from bailing out and from hurting, and the hurt from being beaten by his guards. I mean, remember, man, this guy was bombing their city. So they didn't welcome him with roses. And going through all of that. And then they come into his cell and say, hey, we found out your dad's a big time admiral. As a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, his dad was the commander that authorized the mission that got him shot down. Well, John, we're going to send you home just as a sign of our good faith. And John tells him, no, man, I'm not going anywhere. I just got here, relatively speaking. You got guys that have been here a few years. How are you going to send me home before these guys go? And the guy said, John, are you crazy? I'm sending you home. I'm sending you home so that you can get your arm and your shoulders fixed so my guards won't be kicking your ass every day. I'm sending you back home so you can get away from all of that. And John says, well, yeah, that's nice. But right's right. I'm standing here. My buddies come first. Because they were here first. They were here before me. And for me to go home after having just got here, that wouldn't be right. And Donald Trump says that man wasn't a hero. How did he say it exactly? Oh, well, McCain's no hero to me. He just, he got captured. Nobody that got captured is a hero. Now you think about that. Nobody that got captured is a hero to me. Now, this is a guy that was able to get 5 deferments because he had a little tutu in his foot. Got it? What was it called? A bone spur, right? A bone spur. The doctor happened that hooked Donald up. Well, his office, and I believe he also lived in the same place where he had his office. Well, guess who owned the building where this doctor, I know the doctor had his office there. I don't know if he also lived there. I believe he did, but I do know for a fact that he had his office there. And this doctor, guess who owned the building? Fred Trump. Donald Trump's daddy. Right? So, Fred held a lease on the doc's office and gave him a few bucks beside. 5 times. Oh, and by the way, you see all them pictures of Donald, right? Playing baseball, and I think he played tennis and lacrosse. All while he was in high school and in college, right? But he couldn't serve his country when his country called, because he had a bone spur. This is Donald Trump. And he turns around nowadays and says, oh, well, John McCain was not a hero because he got shot down. Nobody who gets captured is a hero. Now, all of you folks, maybe you had Uncle Louis who went off to war, and last you heard he got captured in Normandy, or maybe I don't know, grandfather Samuel somewhere doing Guadalcanal. The last Marine Corps heard was that he was supposedly captured, but no one heard from him again. So these guys are losers, right? Because they got captured. So they're not heroes. The world according to Donald, right? And see, this is the part where the need for some type of academic commission, that's where they come in. That's where that commission would come in. Because I will tell you, and I'm not that damn old, and I will tell you that somebody running for office in 1970, saying something like that, well, anybody that got captured, they're no hero. I'll tell you quite frankly, in many parts of the country, a person like that, especially a male like that, they would have to have around the clock 24-hour protection. Seriously. Or they would have to make a public announcement that they were dropping out of the race. I kid you not. I'm not trying to be hyperbolic, but that's just the way this country is, or I guess now I have to say, that's how this country was. And I'm talking about everyone. Black, white, red, yellow, brown, purple. It's no exaggeration to say there would be a very good possibility of, in that guy's area, seeing him, one morning at 2 o'clock in the morning, seeing him strung from a lamppost. To say that someone who was captured was not a hero. So that's why I say we need to find out where we went wrong, what has happened to this country. Because this is madness. This is something that we need to really sit down and think about. Now, conservatives love to sit down and talk about America and the moral decay. Well, I will tell you, the problem that we have, well, I put it like this. I agree with them about a moral decay. But the problem is, as that debate last night showed, yes, there is a moral decay, but that is a moral decay on the right. It's not because of anything that has been pronounced on the part of progressives. When you have the President of the United States standing up there and saying that a guy who basically gave his all for his country in a war that nobody liked, that nobody really believed in, and on top of that, he was willing to say, no, I'm not going to leave my buddies here. I'm going to stay here until they, so that they can leave. Because I don't deserve to go home. They've been here longer than I have. Why do you think I deserve to go home? Yeah, there is a problem with moral decay. But I think the Republican Party is looking in the wrong places. Another problem that I have, and perhaps maybe I'm the wrong person to talk about the debate, because my question is, why do we give a criminal the right to debate for the presidency of the United States? These groups, okay, and you have a lot of so-called political groups out here now, and that can be a good thing. That's what America is about. The right to speak out, the right to organize politically. That's why we left the sheltering arms of Great Britain. But when it comes to the point, well, perfect example. Donald makes a big deal about Black Lives Matter and Antifa. Well, I'm proud to say that what would I say? I signed up in support of Antifa, which I'm quite proud to say I've done. And I've also, quite some time ago, I signed up as a member of Black Lives Matter. What's that all about? I remember a woman approached me one time, and here in New York, and said, well, do not all lives matter? And I said, yes, ma'am, you're right. All lives do matter. The problem comes in because in this country, here in America, for so many years, for hundreds of years, the rule was that Black lives do not matter. That is the problem. That's why we say Black Lives Matter. Because you have to remind people, yes, Black lives matter. just like everyone else's lives matter. As far as the other group, Antifa, well, for that, maybe I should blame my age. And hold my age, excuse me. Okay, just keeping up with the time here. I was raised in that baby boom generation. And I tell you quite frankly, I'm not gonna lie, I love a good war movie, okay? And I laugh because I think about all the times I used to drive my mom crazy, especially during the days when we only had one TV in the house. And we always, basic plot, Nazis, militaristic, Japanese fascists, bad, Americans, good, right? You know, American flyers shot down in France, in Nazi-occupied France. Meets French gal, usually maybe beautiful French woman who helps to smuggle American flyer to the French underground. And they have all the adventures of, you know, crawling through the forest and trying to blend in with the French population, all that good stuff. And somehow they managed to make it to the coast. And then they make it across the English Channel. And they make it to England, to freedom. And then they have the terrific love scene. And then my boy meets back with his unit. And he, the final scene, he rejoins his unit. And you see him taking off, right? Flying back across the channel to go bomb some more Nazis. And, you know, his girl's waving, you know, the big I love you look in their eyes and everything. And you got the nice, diligent, patriotic music, right? And, you know, the movie's over. Now, I was bred on those kind of movies. And, you know, some of them were really damn good. So I'm trying to figure out what the hell's wrong with that? They were movies basically talking about fighting the Nazis. So what the hell's wrong with that? We were the good guys. Now we have a president that says an organization whose sole claim to fame, this is all that they're about, fighting Nazis. They're bad people according to Trump. And that really blows my mind. So I really wonder how in the hell, what country did Donald grow up in? Was he a member of Hitler Youth? I thought that he grew up here in the good old US of A. I thought that his daddy also grew up here in the good old US of A. Oh my God, I just remembered. I understand that his father was arrested for taking part in a riot in Brooklyn, a Ku Klux Klan riot. Because I think a bunch of Irish Catholics, if I'm not mistaken, and some Italians were attacking Fred Trump because they were Ku Klux Klan people. And these guys are making it known that they didn't want that crap in Brooklyn, if I'm not mistaken. So maybe that has something to do with it. But no, Antifa are the good guys because they are anti-fascist. So in many ways, to me anyway, all these people that talk about how much they love America, well, if that's the case, then why are you supporting Donald Trump? You know, every time he has one of his spreader speeches, I call them spreader speeches because anytime he holds a rally, all he's doing, you notice he doesn't go into any policy information when he has a rally. All he does basically is he yells a lot, but you don't learn anything. And then he finishes it off with that crescendo, you know, he's either lock him up, lock her up, you know. And of course, there's always the blame segment. It's Obama's fault, it's Biden's fault, it's the Democrats' fault, it's the media's fault, it's the progressives' fault, it's the Hispanic people's fault. No, it's the Mexicans' fault. Actually, that's another thing I find so interesting about this guy. He doesn't understand there's a difference between somebody who's a Mexican as opposed to a Dominican, as opposed to a Venezuelan, as opposed to a Cubano, as opposed to somebody from Colombia. You know, he doesn't get it. If I knocked on the White House door, which I would be crazy to do, but if I did and started talking about issues that face Latino people, and he'd probably look at me and say, well, what the hell are you talking about? What do you know? And I would say, well, on my father's side, everybody's, you know, Spanish speaking. That would probably blow his mind. And in fairness, let me say that in America, that is a problem with many people on the part of the larger group, because too often we stereotype and we put people in lump sums. We can't put all Latinos in one big bag because it's different. For example, you talk about Cubans, right? A lot of Hispanic people, they love Fidel Castro. But you have a lot of Cubans, they remember how Fidel, in many ways, he betrayed the revolution in Cuba. And see, that's another problem. So that's something the Democratic Party needs to be aware of. And be careful with that sensitivity. See? And that's what happens when you get into this thing about stereotyping people. But with Donald, his problem is just plain meanness and just plain racism. Now, you talk about, I have it right here. Donald wants to try and pick who you should and who you should not hate. Give you an example. We were just talking about Antifa and Black Lives Matter. I have not heard of any member of Antifa or Black Lives Matter try to kidnap anyone. Yet, a couple of months ago, you had groups, large groups of people, poor boys, what have you, march into the state capitol with their weapons, right? Military style weapons, go into the state capitol and basically tell legislatures, listen, I want my neighborhood barbershop to open up and open up now. In spite of the fact that you had a disease that was taking people out of here. When I say out of here, I mean like to the next world, to the next life. And the governor is mandated by law to protect people as best as he humanly can. Now, in a free democratic society, we have a right to gather and to forcefully speak our mind, to gather, to assemble, to complain, to raise hell. We do not have the right to threaten our legislature with guns. And that's what these right-wing groups were doing. And what does Donald Trump do? Donald Trump cheers these would-be secessionists. He cheers them on. In my opinion, they need to just go ahead and make it a law that nobody has a right, except for proper law enforcement, properly designated law enforcement, should be the only ones allowed to go into the state capitol building with weapons, period. I don't see why that should be a problem, okay? This business about, my freedom. Yeah, well, hey, man, your freedom ends where my face begins. This idea that somehow a bunch of guys with M16s are going to stand off the 101st Airborne, not going to happen. Not going to happen. And I would really suggest that if you think that, or if things have gotten to the point where you feel that you got to go out there and try and stand down the 101st, I would suggest that we already are in a big pile of you know what, okay? To be quite frank about it. And I would like to ask these people, why do you think things are so bad that you have to attack your state assembly person with an M16? Because basically that's what you're saying. Why do you think that's necessary? Why do you think it's necessary for you to kidnap your governor? So far, we have found out that these right-wing supporters of Trump have tried to kidnap the governor of Michigan and the governor of Virginia. Now, I would not be the least bit surprised if you have got, if there are a few more plots out there, we just haven't heard of them. Or, put it this way, they have not been revealed publicly as of yet. But it wouldn't surprise me in the least. It truly wouldn't. And another question that we need to ask, what is it about Donald Trump that brings all this type of stuff to the surface? You know how some people, they just have this way about them. It's kind of like the guy in school, right? Maybe your parents, you might have a guy in your school or in the neighborhood, or maybe even at work. Some people, they have a talent for bringing out the worst in people. And I'm sure you've seen this at, going through life at one time or another. You got some clown, for some reason, he brings out the worst in people. He brings out the beast in people. And obviously, this is what we have in Donald Trump. All the negative qualities about our country. The worst, how should I put this? The worst aspects of America. The things that harm us the most. This is what Trump has been able to bring to the surface. And we have to be damn careful about that. You know, whether this guy gets reelected or not, we have to really start checking ourselves out as a nation. And believe me, the rest of the world is truly checking us out. They are truly observing us and trying to figure out what is going on with the United States these last 4 years. Believe me, they are. They're trying to figure out, yo, man, what happened to your country? This can't be you. This is not you. We have been watching you since 1945. And now, for some odd reason, you guys have done a 180-degree turn. We don't know you anymore. And we don't like that. You were our friend. And now you've gone beyond being an enemy. You have turned into an entirely different type of human being. You people, you're not cruel. You have made mistakes. And we have not always agreed. But you people were never vicious. And we hope that you folks might find some way to get yourself back together. And that's what we need to do now, folks. This is what we need to do. We need to find ourselves before we lose ourselves. Because I fear greatly that if we don't go back, and when I say go back, don't take that the wrong way, because history goes forward. But when I say go back, I'm saying go back in the sense that we need to get back on track. A train has to be on a track so that it can go forward. And that's what has happened to us. We have been derailed. Our great experiment in democracy has been derailed. And we need to get back on that track. We need to get back to reality. We have thousands of people every month dying from this disease. And no, COVID is not like the flu. It is 10 times deadlier than the flu. It is not the same thing as some people in the Trump administration try to say. It is 10 times deadlier. And that's another problem that we have. From the inception of this country, the federal government has always done all it could to work with the states in times of emergency. This federal government, under this administration, has done practically nothing in this disease. And you see the results. Thousands upon thousands of people dead. And I tell you, the anger, the reason for the anger is because, yeah, people do die. But what makes it hurt all the more is that these people who are dying unnecessarily. We didn't have to lose the amount of people that we have lost. And the projections are horrifying. That is what has people so angry. And the fact that you can pass on without even having the opportunity to say goodbye to your loved ones, that's what frightens me. That's what frightens the hell out of me. And it shouldn't be like that. We should be able to depend upon our federal government to have our backs. And under this administration, that's not happening. And that's wrong, ladies and gentlemen. That is wrong. I don't care, Republican, Democrat, and just a few more things, a few more points I want to hit upon, and that is this craziness. Red state, blue state. Well, guess what? When I was 17, I joined the United States Army. Some years later, I joined the United States Navy, all right? In both of those circumstances, I didn't join the New York State Navy or the New York State Army, okay? This is one nation. And the things that Donald Trump was saying last night, it wounded me a great deal, because Donald showed that he is not the president of the United States. He thinks that he is the president of a small country inhabited by people who think like he thinks. And if you don't think like him, and to be quite frank about it, if you don't, kind of look like him, but especially if you don't think like him, then hey, oh well. That is the impression that he gives. And that's wrong, folks. That's wrong. Folks, we'll catch you next week. In the meantime, stay safe, stay well. God bless you all. It's the Concerned Forum, and I'm your host, Robert Gums. Keep me in your prayers. Take care. Bye. Wait, before I let you go, remember, don't let anyone tell you that your vote doesn't count. Believe me, this is the most important election in your lifetime. Make sure that you get out there and tell everyone that you know to get out there and vote. God bless.